Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I am welcoming the incredible Dee Ludlow, who is the man that you see when it comes to crypto and entrepreneurship and creating a community, which is something I'm a big believer in, and you've done that very nicely with the 5 a.m. club, which obviously I've been blessed to join you with. And I brought you on today because you are the man when it comes to crypto. Your name, when you hear your name, you relate it to the crypto sector and stuff like that, and that's very much the community you built. So it's such a hot topic right now, and there's loads of questions that I want to ask myself because they're personal, but also I know that they're burning questions that other people have had as well, and that we'll get a lot of value from this. So for those of you that for those that might perhaps not know you, Dee, on Instagram or anything like that, can we just have that 30,000 view, of what you do and who you are?
Yeah, so my name's Dee. Like Aaron just mentioned, I run the 5 a.m. club. It's like an online community of people. We have new guest speakers each week, which Aaron's been a guest a few times. And yeah, I invest in multiple asset classes, being predominantly focused on crypto for mainly the last 2 years, just because I look for the best ROI. But yeah, I like to diversify my portfolio, and I also run a mastermind group as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I think everyone will know who you are, especially if they follow my community and within yours. I think where I want to start this is the first question being, why should people be paying attention to crypto? Why is it that we should perhaps all be listening and learning about the potential of it? What is it about crypto that we should be listening to?
Well, like I just mentioned, as an investor, you're usually looking where you can get, the best ROI. Now, we should be strategic when it comes to risk reward and risk management. But if we just look at the basics, first and foremost, it is the best performing asset over the last 10 years. If you take a look at the log chart, it's been very consistent in an uptrend, even with the recent vol and the recent correction. Now, if we do put Bitcoin aside for now, because I think most people know what Bitcoin is, and anyone that is interested in reading central bank documents globally, or even if they researched anything in this space, I would say it's fair to say that Bitcoin isn't going anywhere, neither is crypto. If anything, we're seeing more institutional adoption weekly. And if we did, like I said, move away from Bitcoin, this is an entire ecosystem. So if you want to stake and earn interest on your fiat, you can use stable coins, which are pegged to currencies. And if we look at current bank interest rates being 0 or negative in parts of the world, you can earn 7 to 12% on the stable coins. You can earn more if you want to be more high risk. You can grant yourself instant loans without any credit checks, up to 50% LTV, no bank needed. You can be your own bank, no intermediary. You can send transactions instantly. Now, even with the sort of critiques of Bitcoin being slow, still faster than credit cards. Plus now the new layer 2 Lightning network, you can transfer instantly. So if you just think, if you wanted to transfer £1 million from say one country to another in our traditional banking system, how long would it take? And then if we look at Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, it trumps anything in traditional banking. And as anyone who's listening now would have seen, we're now seeing nation states adopt this also. And I think one thing people get mistaken by cryptocurrencies are they're not just cryptocurrencies, right? These are businesses that are working on solutions to solve real world problems, just with blockchain technology. And I suppose, so that's sort of touching the surface. It's a very disruptive technology because I don't think a lot of people was ready for it. But that's why I think people should be focused on this, just because everybody's in an instant world, and blockchain makes things even more instant, and it just gets rid of the middleman, the people that aren't really needed, especially in traditional finance, but along with everything. It's going to disrupt most industries.
So essentially, I suppose what you're saying there, in a way, is it's an outlet to keeping our money in the bank, which obviously we know. So it's another source of looking at the performance of it, which obviously it has done very well. It's another storage, somewhere where we can put our money. What you said there, it's instant. So transactions are instant, which is good. That's what I like about it, is instant, and there is no middleman. So those are kind of all the pros, and I suppose why people would be looking at it. So sort of following on from that, why is it that perhaps there are so many coins, and I think there's an overwhelming feeling now that there's so many tokens, coins, whatever you want to call them. You know, when we look at Bitcoin, why is Bitcoin at the moment, and perhaps Ethereum sitting very closely behind, why is Bitcoin the lead? So why is it that Bitcoin has taken the lead opposed to others?
Well, I think putting it like quite straightforward, Bitcoin was first. Well, it's not the first digital currency. There was like Hashcash, BitGold, and others, which I don't know too much about. But I think Bitcoin takes lead just because it was first. It's truly decentralized because we don't know who made it. The network effect is already in full effect. It's the highest by market cap. It has the most secure network, and Bitcoin has the market share. I think it being first and everything sort of coming after it is a big sort of one of the main reasons, and because nobody knows who made it. Yeah.
Well, so I have a bit of a theory here. With regards to the creator of Bitcoin, this is just the wider part of my brain thinking here, is that when governments, when something threatens a government, a central bank, that an action will be taken. It'll be formal routes. Then if it's not working, then I believe very much behind closed doors, things are put in place, and laws are created out of thin air and stuff like this. Do you think that was intended, that the owner didn't want to reveal himself in knowing perhaps how big this and what a contender it could be? Do you think that's why he is not known?
Yeah, I think in one of the first blocks that were mine, there was a message on there that said the Chancellor on the bailout of banks, or on the brink of the bank bailout. So I think that whoever, him, she, they, whoever it was that created it, I think was very much a forward thinker, seeing what was going on from a macro standpoint within the economy, the long-term debt cycle, the inflationary system that we live in, to maintain capitalism and the growth of economies. I think that they seen slight issues in this and the way this was going, and I think that they, or whoever it is, knew this could be massive. And it's crazy how someone built something that, unless you take over, say, 50% of the network, which is not impossible, pretty impossible, you can't shut the thing down. So I think that it's genius what they've done. But there's all sorts of thoughts of who this person is. Like, we don't know. It could be the FBI. It could be the central bank, for all we know. We don't know who it is. But whoever it is has created something pretty crazy.
I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but I saw this, and I take Dan Penner with a pinch of salt. Yeah. I really do. I like some of the stuff that he says for comedy reasons. And I like some of his takes, but he stood on stage once and said, wait till you find out who the owner of Bitcoin is, and you'll all back off, and you'll all be shocked, and it'll all be a joke, and you'll all realize. What do you think he was referring to when he said, you wait until you find out who actually owns Bitcoin and who started it? What do you think that was about?
First of all, I agree with you on taking him as a pinch of salt. I'm not a big fan of his. I think it's fantastic what he's done. I'm not a big fan. So do I think Dan Penn knows who the creator is? No. I think what he means by that is sort of the value behind crypto, behind Bitcoin as a store of value. That's one of the main factors, the fact we don't know who it is and it's decentralized. I think that does give it that aspect of value. And I'm not sure what it would do if we did know who it was, but I think it could make an impact if someone came out and was like, oh, we can prove that. Let's say they said it was the FBI. Then all of the people that are sort of quite libertarian, that has been, Bitcoin are now going to be like, what? We're now Bitcoin maxis. And well, these guys are the ones that made it. So I think he probably refers to, if you found out who made it, he probably knows that the person that made this needed to be, for one, a computer scientist. And, back then, you could probably put yourself on a handful of people who was an expert in cryptography. So it wouldn't surprise me if elites do have an idea of the source of who created this. But I suppose it's another sort of conspiracy theory, as they call these days.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny though, this room filled with people with dark cloaks. It's funny because some of the business owners that I know, I actually bring this conversation up and I say, what do you feel and believe when it comes to power sitting behind central banks? in dark rooms, you know, where perhaps not a lot is said, a nod of the head, papers signed, maybe handshakes, and then people leave. And a lot of the people who have got millions and millions and millions, I know, they believe that these rooms happen, that literally these rooms, that not a lot will, you know, like the whole Illuminati, literally not a lot will be said. There'll be a few people in the room, a few nods of the head, that will leave, and they know exactly what's going on. I think it's all very interesting. But when it comes to the crypto, then, if someone is watching this and they are, at the moment, they are thinking about it, because so many people are thinking about it. But my whole thing is about just being really smart with your money, because if you're working hard for it, you just got to be smart. What 3 cryptos? Mine is Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin. What 3 stick out to you? And perhaps where would you say to someone, let's start with these, they're the strongest?
Well, I think you've made a good point there on those 3. You know, if we're going to mention 3, I probably think we should stick to the blue chip projects for Bitcoin, Ether, and Cardano, because people who firstly jump into this space, if you're not already in it, I wouldn't suggest you go down the sort of lower cap projects, because you could research, they could be great companies and working on some great, you know, sort of problems that they're solving in the world. But I think you should go with the ones that have the majority of market share and that's already withstood the test of time and are actually doing something. The investors behind them are really good. So yeah, if we stick to those 3, so if we just say Bitcoin first, like I mentioned, we're now seeing nations adopt this. So we could use the sort of store of value narrative or a medium exchange, depending on, you know, where in the world you are, and also, you know, what your long-term outlook is. You know, we're also seeing, you know, decentralized finance being built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain now. Well, it's difficult to build directly on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, but developers are trying to link DeFi with the Bitcoin blockchain now, which is quite, I think, is a step forward for Bitcoin. And then, you know, moving to Ethereum, another great one. You know, the entire decentralized finance space is built on Ether right now. So, you know, you can use Ether to program smart contracts. So let's say me and you is in the process of completing like a mergers and acquisitions deal right now. I send you crypto asset X, and then after you also agree to the transaction, that's when it gets completed. It sounds a bit like escrow, but what crypto does is allows you to do this without a lawyer, a bank, a company, no delays, very low fees, and obviously speed is on your side too. And then also we're looking with Ether, lending platforms, NFTs, all the DeFi stuff can be built on the Ethereum blockchain. And it is very early days for DeFi, but I think it has huge upside in the decentralized finance space. And then Cardano, which, you know, it's sort of been named the Ethereum killer. I wasn't fully sold on Cardano until quite recently. I did hold some Cardano, but it was a lot of hype, a lot of talk around them doing things that they never actually did, but it has been here for a long time. I don't think it's an Ethereum killer. I think they'll just coexist. But Cardano now rolling out their smart contracts, which they've been talking about for a long time. And I was talking to a developer down at the Bitcoin conference in Miami last month, and they made me more bullish on ADA. You know, the stuff they were saying is actually happening now. They were saying about the smart contracts being rolled out within 60 days, like a week and a half after the conference. I've seen an article about it. He said that Grayscale was going to be picking them up in the Grayscale Trust. Then that happened. So I was like, I did take a lot with a pinch of salt down in Miami because it was very maxi crypto, maxi Bitcoin. So I just like to, you know, challenge the opposite opinion. But everything this guy was telling me is happening. So it's made me very bullish. And Cardano's held up very well in the recent correction too, compared to a lot of the other crypto assets. So I do like it. But yeah, there's 43 to focus on, but I'm bullish on loads. Like I created like a crypto 20 in the mastermind group, which is like the equivalent to the S&P 500 index. It's like an index of 20 cryptos, some high velocity, some more stable as far as volatility goes. If depends on what you class as volatility in the space. But yeah, there's so many that I'm bullish on, but I would think those 3 that you mentioned, for anyone that's coming into the space, would be good to start out researching those.
So, I mean, so golden points there. When it comes to the coins, I feel that a lot of people get the overwhelming feeling and they hold on to the hype of there's so many coins, and they look at, and the percentages are so openly available. When you look at a coin that's perhaps new and one day it's got like 22% up, that's where I find people go, do you know what, actually, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm not going to go with the Bitcoin because that's all dropped. I'm going to see if I can put a big chunk into this because this has just done 22%. And that's where this whole meme kind of stocks, you know, that kind of, and that's where I find people lose money. And, you know, what would be your top tip to say to someone, look, don't look at what this 20% that it's just done today. Don't go dumping your money in. Look at the fundamentals of these other three. Yeah, they're on a low at the moment, but look at the long term. Don't get sucked in. How would you stop someone from dumping a load of money into a coin that's had a spike?
I think what's hard about this is we live in the sort of instant gratification world now. So where the traditional investment approach would go, when you look at the greats, the Warren Buffetts, the Ray Dalios, the Bill Ackermans, you look at those, and if you said to those, look, there's this meme coin that could pump 3,000%, they just wouldn't be interested, right? Any of the great investors wouldn't be interested in those, in my opinion. But then the problem is, because we live in that instant world now, people are like, well, I just seen this pump 20% today, so I want 20% a day. And then people get so trapped in looking at their blockfolio and being like, oh, I'm up 20%. Oh, I'm going to keep investing in these really low cap projects because I want 20% a day. Where, as you know, the people you talk to, the people are like happy with 20% a year. Like, that's a good year. So, you know, if you said the S&P had a 20% return in 1 year, you'd be like, well, I have a fantastic year my own portfolio has. So it's made everybody like think instant. So if I was to say to somebody, I'd be like, firstly, research what you're investing in. Like, for me, the reason why I don't invest in stuff like Doge, yes, it went up to like a 70 billion valuation, which at that level, you can sort of then maybe use it for something. But if you look at, if there's no white paper, but it was a joke coin. So it was made up as a joke, and then it's become something. So for me as an investor, I find it hard to put my money into something that has been blatantly told in public that it was a joke, regardless of what Elon Musk says. As an investor, that's not something I would invest in. So I would say be very cautious, because crypto moves very fast. It's very volatile. And as quick as you can make those 20%, you can lose 100. So especially on the stuff that has no real value. So I would be very careful. You're not going to get rich overnight, isn't it? There's nothing out there that does that.
No, and that's exactly what it is. And I feel that you hit the nail on the head. And I actually had this conversation yesterday with Simon Squibb, is that just because Elon has tweeted, so I mean, this is what's crazy. I mean, I can't believe we're having a conversation about it. This is what gets me. We're having a conversation about the reality that people are making decisions based on social media tweets and stuff like this. And this is why I got such a slaughtering on AMC, is because I don't agree with it. I mean, like, when we look at AMC, it's at like, what, $38. It's plateaued, but there is still this hope that it's going to do that, this $400 to $1,000. It's not. It had so much fuel. The fuel has died. It's gone bad. And unfortunately, there are real cases. I actually know someone who made 15,000, and they had a profit take, and they took profit, and they actually made 15,000. Obviously, it's subject to tax, blah blah blah. Now, if he was to go around, he's not an expert, but if he was to go around showing people this 15 grand, that's genuine. Bought at like $4.50, sold at like 67, made 15 grand. Brilliant. So he could actually say to people, look what I've done. And people will get sucked into that. And obviously there was very much of that in the crypto. So, you know, it's just slow down and look at fundamentals. Yeah, exactly. A question I want to ask you, I want your take on this, is going to be interesting, is that with crypto, long term, does this survive the test of time in regards to governments going, too much money is being moved, we can't control it, enough is enough, we are shutting this down, whether it's physical force or whether we literally create laws? I mean, taxes are coming in with certain apps now declaring. Does it stand the test of time? Is crypto going to be around in 20 years?
Oh, definitely. I think that I have no doubt. I think it's just going to keep evolving. Like, we're very early days. And the thing we need to look at, if I asked you, you know, do you think Facebook has stood the test of time? Then you probably say yes. If I asked you, has Instagram stood the test of time? Uber, Airbnb, even YouTube, like, you know, all of these. YouTube was founded in like, what, 2005, 2006. So if you look at this, I would say crypto or Bitcoin has already stood the test of time, in my opinion. And there's no way that I don't think people are now going to be, they're going to more endorse crypto more and more, and blockchain inside our current financial system, healthcare, supply chains, everything. Like if you look at VeChain, for instance, is tackling global supply chains. They're already linked to BMW, they're already linked to Walmart, China. And if you look, I'm not sure if you've seen the Netflix documentary Seaspiracy.
I haven't. I keep getting told to watch it though. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
So it talks about, the problems we have in supply chains as far as like, it's not very transparent of where the fish they catch are from, where it gets packaged and sold, and all the different things.
Oh, sorry, I have. Yeah, sorry, I have. I have.
So with like say VeChain, for instance, they track everything from the fisherman that caught it all the way to where it was packaged, all the way to the shop it was sold in. You can scan it with a QR code and see how transparent it is. So I think that's just one aspect. They're tackling the sort of automotive industry as well. So there's companies out there that stuff like that's needed. Also healthcare. If I, me being originally from Wales, and let's say I come up to see you and I fell over and hurt myself, we went to the hospital. The hospital that in your area wouldn't know my health records, and I live 2 hours away. So it's like this all gets tracked on a public ledger. So I feel that the transparency and the speed of things now, I think that it'll definitely be in 20 years time. I'm actually very fascinated on how the world will look in 20 years time, because of the exponential growth of tech and the way things are going. Now, central banks are just trying to get this regulated, right? They're not trying to shut this down. In my opinion, they're just lagging a bit and they're panicking. So once they get to grips with this, I think they'll be using it for all their financial products. I do feel many banks will be left behind. There's no need for us really to be going through banks for half the stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis. Doesn't really make sense. But I think that crypto I think all the big companies, like for instance, Amazon, Apple, they all already use Ethereum, right? But then I seen Apple last month advertising for crypto experts, Amazon yesterday advertising for crypto experts. So I think that the people that we should be looking at to see if this is going to be here in 20 years time are the big tech giants, because they're the ones that are going to drive this industry when it becomes way more mainstream than it already is.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think it is that difference between, they don't want it decentralized, and the thing is, obviously there are things coming in now with certain apps. How is that going to, because the big appeal is to certain taxes and stuff like that. So how does someone who has perhaps a big portfolio, how can they perhaps pivot now that you might have to declare? And that fraud, if you money laundering and stuff like this might come into play for those people who are perhaps doing things that they shouldn't due to the amounts that they hold. How does someone pivot and just adapt to the changes that will come in? It's inevitable.
Yeah. So with the actual central bank digital currency, no mistake, there's 100% going to be tax automation and a bunch of other things. But when it comes to pivoting, there are some very creative ways of which you can do this now, which, I've talked to some tax advisors that have, spoke in depth of what you can do with this, right? So there are ways you can do this now. I think that if anything, it just shows you that you need to be organized. This isn't a game. This is a recognized asset class now that is going to be regulated. It is going to be taxed, already being taxed, and you need to get your stuff together. I think that you need to make sure that your affairs are in order, and don't get me wrong, a lot of this is going to be swept under the rug, because if someone bought, say, Bitcoin in 2011, are they now subject to capital gains when the tax sort of for crypto assets has only recently been brought in? So there's going to be a lot of things up in the air and what happens with this. But I speak to somebody that's, how can I say this on this, that is involved within the HMRC taxation of crypto assets, and they are very far behind right now. They're still trying to work stuff out, which, it's obvious, right? There's stuff that, like, I look at this space every day and I learn stuff every day. It's so new and there's so many things to look at. It's impossible to know everything. So when they're looking at, they need to try and consider first exchanges where a lot of them are based in America, and America doesn't comply with common reporting standards. So then they've got to get over that hurdle. Then they got to look at ones that are based in other countries. Then they got to look at cold wallets, hardware wallets, software wallets. There's all these decentralized exchanges. To be fair, if you're the HMRC or any tax authority, where do you start? So it's going to be it is going to be hard for them. But I think that I would say to anyone that don't try and think I'm going to go under the radar. Just get your stuff sorted. You know, just do it. If you're making good returns, then just make sure your affairs are sorted correctly. I'm a big believer in getting your sort of tax planning, asset protection, estate planning all in place anyway. Anyone can buy assets.
Yeah.
Anyone with money can buy an asset. Preserving the asset and maintaining it and keeping it is where the real magic happens. I did post it the other day, but that's how I believe. I like anyone can buy an asset. You don't need to take a genius to go online and buy a stock.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I know so many people that, I mean, look, you can only tell someone so many times about, you know, if they make good cash flow or they've got good assets, but they're spending it. You know, you can only tell that, but it has to be in them to want to preserve it and grow it and stuff like that. So I was actually having that conversation today, sort of similar things. So brilliant. So give us some. So moving on, sort of pros and cons. What are the pros? If you could name 3 top pros of crypto right now, and then moving on to perhaps 3 of the cons at the moment that need, you know, a bit of teething work and stuff like that.
I would say privacy and security would be the #1 pro for crypto. We could go into being fast and low transaction costs, but I would say privacy and security is 1. 2, it gets to bank the unbanked. We have a serious unbanked problem in the world right now. So I definitely feel that that's a big step towards, you know, getting people banked and being able to be banked in the digital world that we're going into. And I would say the 3rd is the transparency. You know, everything's done on the blockchain. And I feel that again is needed. Like we could go to blockchain.com now and have a look at the last Bitcoin transaction, how much it was and what time it took place. I believe that we definitely need transparency, especially from in the financial system. If we look in the financial system, the lack of transparency and stuff that goes on. If like I'm a bit of a historian with the banking system, and so some of the stuff that's gone on is it's devastating for people. But when it comes to transparency is a big one. When it comes to cons, I would say it's very volatile at the moment. It's a big con. People that like to feel safe, unless you really understand it and spend some time, it is volatile. So like you mentioned, the blue chips, I feel that if you want to feel safe when sleep at night, then look at blue chips and then just look long term. That, like, I know you take that approach, and I think it's a sensible approach to take. #2, people could argue that the privacy behind it could lead to more illegal activity, but I think that we already see a lot of it, more of that happens in the fiat system. So, but I do feel that it could be classed as a con because people like to think that our current system isn't like that, but it is what it is. And I would say the last con. So yeah, if you send a transaction and you send a crypto asset to the wrong address, or you get 1 bit wrong in the address, then it can't be undone. So once it's gone, it's
you're not getting it back.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I would say
Gone.
like is good. So it's a pro, but it's a con. So is it good because you need to be on the ball, but is a con because you're like, if you do make a mistake and you want to do something fast, that can go a bit wrong for you. And obviously there's a lot of hacking going on as well. I suppose that's probably another con, but yeah, that's probably the ones that stand out.
I was going to say the potential of hacking. That's what I was going to say. I know that's one, especially for older school people, that's where they think, oh, it's going to get hacked, it's digital, I'm going to lose it all. I know that plays on a lot of people's mind. So here we go. This is one I'm very interested in. This always comes up. I get asked it, and I actually turn around and say, don't ask me. I have no idea. Apart from withdrawing profits, how does someone make a lifestyle or take income, or is it not an income? Because it's portrayed of both. It's portrayed that you take returns when they're at highs, you sell them off, buy in back low. If you're a trader, you are technically a trader, but then there's also portrayal that actually this can provide an income of some way. That's certainly some images that have given off. So how does it really work, in the sense that, is this an invest, sit on, let it grow, or if you're a trader, you sell at highs, you buy in at lows?
I suppose it depends what you're looking for. You know, if it is, you know, capital appreciation, then I would just be analyzing projects and the companies for more of a long-term investment, dollar cost average in, just like you would with stocks, and just sit on them. But then you could earn interest, so you could be staking or yield farming as well. Both of those provide quite a lot of interest. So, you know, if you're earning say 12% which I think is a sensible figure in crypto. That you can see some, I see some for like 60 or 70%, but I just stay away from those. A lot of rug pulls happen, so I like to stick to the sort of the safer exchanges to stake on, which I stake. So yeah, you can earn interest, so you can earn a lifestyle from it, but you know, again, you still have to like withdraw to take that to have a lifestyle. But yeah, or you could just trade, like you said. If you're a trader, you can trade also. But I think people should just be taking a similar approach to stocks at this point, in my opinion, rather than other things. Like the DeFi space is still very new, so I think that you can earn a lifestyle from it by staking and earning interest, or yield farming. And there's companies now that, you know, like Yearn Finance, that they automate your yield farming for you, so they'll just go and find the best yield for you out in the market. Now, it's not something that I like to do as yield farming. I think it's very new and I find it kind of risky, but people are making some really good returns on investment. Staking, on the other hand, is something that I like to do. You can earn interest. I see, especially in the current market now, where, you know, we're quite a way off where we were at the previous all-time high. Then it's not too bad if you lock your cryptos up for a while, earn some extra interest on them while we're waiting for the market to come back. And if you are taking the long-term approach, then I don't see why you wouldn't lock some of your blue chips up anyway. Personally, it's like some people have stocks paying no dividends sitting in their Hargreaves Lansdown account for 15-20 years. So in this way, you can lock them up and you can earn interest while they're sort of sitting on your exchange or wherever you want to put them, really.
Awesome. Great answer, and a lot of value there. So answered my question. Here's one for you. So this is actually slightly off, but I was going to mention it earlier. Again, when we go back to, because one of my things here about government, will they compete or will they just try and tighten things up and then just let it run with it? Or will they compete and bring out their own, like we've heard of it, like Bitcoin, for example? Just before we get into that, had you heard, and I spoke with Andrew Craig about this, had you heard about the conspiracy or what Colonel Gaddafi was trying to do with a digital currency in Africa, which he was pulling together, and the Americans basically went in there and absolutely AR-15 him. He was gone, flat packed him, and put it down to terrorism. But actually what it was is there was a huge threat on China, the euro, and especially the dollar, because he had created this very habitable, good living, you know, equal opportunity, and also backed by what was going to be this new digital currency in Africa, which obviously would have been a huge competitor. And then Colonel Gaddafi was wiped off the face of the earth, which, just to finish on, does that perhaps not spark the question to why the Bitcoin creator has never revealed himself?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And, you know, it's what they do all the time. You know, they're protecting what's theirs. We see it with the petrodollar. I don't think it's a coincidence that every time they invade the Middle East, they're invading a country that has tried to sell oil for a different commodity or a different currency. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Not at all.
They're obviously protecting their petrodollar system.
Well, I don't know. Ask my mum, actually. She'll probably disagree with both of us, and yeah, she'll leave the room. So. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that, you know, that's so yeah, I think that's probably what they did do. That is probably why there's a big part of it why the person that maybe created Bitcoin doesn't want to be known. Like, you've got to ask yourself the question: would you want to be that person right now, knowing that if they don't know who it is, like, they're going to be rattling their brains here, working on putting all their sort of any AI technology they have to try and find out how, where, when this happened. Does anyone know anyone who knows the creator? So it's going to be, I probably wouldn't want to be that person. It's probably the world's most wanted person. So yeah, but when it comes to them sort of challenging the system, sort of the Bitcoin system, it's been already on the cards for, you know, well over a year now. I think the Bank of England back in January 2020 said that they was working on a cryptocurrency back then. Every global central bank's pretty much working on their own. I actually have a friend that works with banks, and he's, you know, all retail banks that he knows are working on more than one cryptocurrency, and they're also working on very creative ways how they can structure mortgages and other things as well, which, you know, he's talked a lot to me about that stuff too, which doesn't surprise me, but I didn't expect them to be working on it this quickly. But I don't think they're going to be trying to compete with Bitcoin. You know, they're there to coexist. You know, we're just going to have our own digital wallet with a bank, which makes it easier, like we said, for tax automation. We'll probably have our health records on the same ledger, and probably everything else potentially the way we're going as a society, probably a social credit score and everything else that's happened at the moment. But I don't think they're going to compete. Like, if you look, like, I like to read articles that central banks post, quite boring, but I enjoy it. None of them are like, we're going to ban this. They're all trying to regulate it and try to see how it fits into where we already are. So yeah, I don't think that they're going to try and compete with Bitcoin, because it's two different things. Like, yes, El Salvador, Paraguay, a lot of the South American countries now are going to be looking to use it as legal tender and use it as a sort of medium of exchange. But then there's going to be a lot of people, like if you look at MicroStrategy, a lot of the big corporations that are going to be looking to just have it sat on their balance sheet as more of a store of value. So yeah, I don't think that they're going to be competing with it, because our CBDCs are what we're going to use day to day, like we do with our cash that we do now.
Yeah, awesome. And I agree with all of it. I agree with what you believe it's going to end up being. I totally agree. I do think they're going to coexist. That's kind of the way that I see it going, or feel that would be the most sensible way of doing it. I think it's got too big for them to try and close it down. It's been going on too long. I think if it was going to be done, it'd be early doors. Awesome. Well, that's kind of sort of wrapping up round about sort of the crypto, and I want to just sort of, as we come to a close, is finish on a few things that obviously I think we're fairly aligned on, is kind of a mindset, entrepreneurship as a whole. For you to keep plodding on, to keep creating, I know that obviously I know what it's like. You run the 5 a.m. Club. I run 2 obviously accountability groups. That's not easy on its own. It always seems like it's easy, you know, and that takes mindset, that takes structure, planning, blah, 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 all that good stuff, plus everything else you're doing. What kind of things do you do to stay focused, in the zone, and juggling all those plates? Because I feel it as well.
Yeah, it is hard. Sometimes I don't know how I do it. Probably the same as you. But yeah, for me, I got 3 children that travel with me, and obviously my wife. So, you know, she looks after the children and stuff. So it's weight on your shoulders, you know, that I want them to have a certain life. So I know it sounds really straightforward and may want a complex way, but I just find a way all the time. I look at them, I look at the life, you know, you design a life you want and how you want to live it. And then you sort of, being quite a ambitious person, I just find a way. I think that, you know, like growing up, everything I've done, I've been like, my dad always said to always try and be in the top 10% of anything you do. So I just get quite addicted to stuff. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to be top 1% then, not top 10, top 1. And then no matter what I do, I try and work out the way to become as good as I can at it, as quick as I can. So yeah, I just stay focused. I suppose you could say that, you know, I cut a lot of people off, like intentionally, slightly unintentionally, like a lot of my friends, which is quite crazy. I've never really said this on an interview before, but if I went back, say 5 years, I had so many people around me. I mean, like so many people. And I was only saying the other day to my wife, right? I was in DC and I was going for a walk, and I was like, do you know what's crazy? I'm now that life I designed to be able to travel and stuff and to do what I want. I feel like I'm living it now. I still don't feel like I'm anywhere near where I want to be. I feel like I'm just getting started. But the life I designed 5 years ago was like, I'm doing it now. And what's sad about it is all the friends and people that, not that I don't talk to them, so I still say all right to them and stuff, but they're not here. And it's like, and some of them I value as close friends. And I still do. We still talk, but they're not here. They don't. And it's crazy that we always treasure our friends at the time. And then another thing that my dad told me when I was a kid, he's like, forget the people you hang around with now, because in 5 years, you're not going to speak to any of them. And I was like,
Yeah,
No, don't be silly.
Yeah.
And it's true. It like every 5 years, you still probably keep in top contact, and you always have one or two friends that you treasure for life. But you always have a different circle every 5 years, and probably less. And if you're not, you're staying inside a comfort zone that I feel you should be pushing yourself out of. So yeah, it is crazy when you sort of get to where you want to get to a certain extent, and then you're like, I didn't feel like you'd be like this, you know? So
Oh, mate, honestly, I'm up there with you. I'm on the same level. How many friends do we have, as in friends that we meet up spending time with? Me personally, not a lot really. I have my connections, my network, my steps in order to get to the next stage, and hopefully I'm the step for them to get to the next stage. You know, the give and take, and that's exactly what it is for me. I mean, as soon as I left school, I didn't see anyone. That was it. It's gone. I was on my own journey, so I totally get it. And also, you know, being in the zone. And I think when you try to be the best entrepreneur and try and do things, you just hit the nail on the head. I think one, you have to have a big enough reason. Children, my son is literally sitting opposite me. Is it a big enough reason? And then you just find a way. That is literally, honestly, what I do. Sometimes you just go. I think it comes down to you either are lazy or you're not, and you'll go, I'm knackered, but I'm going to do it because I have to, because no one else is going to do it for me. And that, I think, is very simple. I think it can be overcomplicated. So you said it very nicely.
and I admire what you're doing. You know, when I see, because you know how long, because we do similar things, you know how much time it takes and effort. And then when I see what you're doing, you're consciously going out your way to meet with higher level and higher performance people. And I feel that it's similar to what I do. And I feel that that's like a bit of a sort of entrepreneur hack that people are scared to do because of confidence. But I feel that we spoke before in the 5 a.m. club, and we're quite similar in regards to, I got tattoos as well, you got tattoos, and I used to feel that was a barrier that I used to have to overcome. And when you first meet people, and sometimes people do look at us certain ways, but you just got to go out and do it. And you'll be surprised that when you open your mouth and people realize that it's a hungry person that wants more and is trying to do good for his family, they'll give you the time.
You're in America. I'm going to throw an amen out there at you because you're probably hearing left, right, center. It's totally true. The tattoos. Do you know, I debated yesterday when I was in London. It was sweltering, and I thought, this is going to be the first time I do an interview with my tattoos out.
Yeah.
And I debated it, but I just thought, people know me for who I am. Sure, I understand. My watch is now getting involved in the interview. Is that when you start talking, and that's what I've had other people with. It's a fascination. You probably have it all the time. I always have. If I put up, ask me a question, I guarantee someone's going to ask about tattoos. And it is just when you start talking, and then the tattoos become invisible, because it's about your knowledge, it's about what you do, it's about your product, it's about how you can offer something. And that's what I find. And we need to meet at some point, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and social media, it can offer so many good things, but in my experience, it can be taken away in a heartbeat. My main account, boom, gone. It has so many pros. Where do you want to go with your social media presence? Because obviously it does offer opportunity. How does it tie in with what you're doing, and where's your future with that?
Good question. Never really thought about it. So I suppose it's like a journal, like you to document what you do. You, especially when you're building a community of people, especially on my mastermind group and some of the one-to-ones I do, it does help people, gives me exposure to then work with new people, which is good. So people get business from social media, but it is like a journal. It's nice to look back and see sort of what you've been doing, and it's good. It's nice, and you can pretty much work somebody out from the social media quite quickly, from their like sort of what the things that they value, their sort of opinions on things, just by stuff people post. So I like to keep growing it, and if sort of why we're doing this now, sort of if we can add value to people and make people think bigger, then I'd like to keep doing that. I love it. Some of the stuff that people message me, probably similar to stuff you've had, and other people that are doing stuff, I love it. I love it when people say, like, thanks for helping or inspire me or all those things. I love hearing that, because it's nice for people to take something away from it, because I don't know, I think we're probably similar age, but I feel that social media wasn't as big. It was there, like the MySpace, the Bebo and Facebook, but it wasn't like
Bebo.
yeah, but it wasn't like it is today. So you don't really take inspiration off people back then, where now you have people there's some people are posting positive content every single day, and it's amazing because it does. And you start unfollowing all the people that don't mean anything, and you follow positive pages. You're going to feel good when you wake up, when you open your social media, if you're following the right people.
It is so funny because I think social media plays a huge part. I mean, I'm definitely, I don't take too much activity and commitment to Instagram now, because I think, my God, if I'd have put the energy into YouTube for those 2 years, my God, my YouTube would be flying, and that'd be an income source of its own, and that'd be branding of its own. But I think it's good to have these few platforms where you can really get the message across. It's funny you say about Bebo, because I'm gonna say three letters here in one word, and you're gonna know. I'm just gonna look at you as I say this. BBM.
BBM. Oh, yeah,
You're gonna know what.
Yeah.
Back in the day, BBM. Me and you were probably on active BBM. Classic. So yeah, look, I think we're probably going to wrap it up, Dee. We've gone through so much awesome content. I think this is going to offer a lot of value, and hopefully sort of opened up a few eyes and answered a few questions, because I know these are burning questions, some of myself and other people, and it's conversations that happen all the time. So it's been awesome to have you on. Definitely when you come back into the UK, I'm going to organise a meetup with some of my network in regards to profile people. Going to get them all in and groups, and let's get some of your community, and it'll be good to cause like a mass disruption in London. So look, thank you so much for coming on, Dee, sharing your time, your time and your experience and knowledge, and we'll have to do this again sometime. So I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate the invite, and it was a pleasure to be on here, mate. I love what you're doing, and it'll be great to meet up in person when I'm back as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for everyone for watching. Until the next time, we will see you all very soon.